Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 102 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this new moon episode, we discuss tarot, astrology, and transformation. We speak with Danny Santos, an astrologist and shaman. He'll also be giving me a reading. I can't wait to share it with you. And I also review the book, Things No One Taught Us About Love, How to Build Healthy Relationships with Yourself and Others by Vex King. And the episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for transformation. But first, let me tell you about my experience with tarot. I was so excited about interviewing today's guest because I knew I was going to get a reading, yes, from an expert. I gave them information about my birth for a birth chart reading, but what I was really interested in was a tarot card reading. I think sometimes with astrology, I'm not as interested in astrology as I am in tarot and things like that, because astrology feels like something that's kind of fixed. You're born this way and that's about it, whereas it doesn't feel very malleable. But I do feel that I am a Gemini sun sign, rising Scorpio, moon Scorpio. So we have, in those signs, if you know anything about astrology, it's communication from Gemini and then sex from Scorpio. So communicating about sex definitely feels like it's my life purpose for sure. But about tarot, my experience with tarot started, I've always kind of been interested in these types of modalities for all of my life. I've been curious. I had a few tarot readings when I was a teenager. I thought about it as something really kind of scary. I think a lot of people are scared by tarot or palm reading, all of those things. And I think the fear is finding out something that is terrible and they can't change, or a situation you had hope for, finding out it's doomed or something like that. And I also had that fear, I suppose. And I had a few tarot readings, and I just remembered every word and made sure they were taped. It felt like some divine wisdom was coming my way. But then I actually was on TV once, and then there was a tarot reader who, I can't remember what the reading was, but he gave me his deck, and I was so impressed because I've heard that your first tarot deck is supposed to be a present. And that was indeed my first deck. It was just the 22 major arcana cards. I wasn't really sure about if that was okay just to use those 22 cards, because there are different suits of the tarot. There's the minor arcana as well, which is kind of like day-to-day smaller events, and then the major one, which is more about major life events, which as far as I know anyway, my limited knowledge. And I had this deck, and from time to time, but very sporadically, I was very flattered, of course, but I was a bit too afraid to use them. But I started doing this spread very sporadically, which was a 3-card spread of past, present, future. And I would just look up the cards online whenever I got the results. And I remember once I had moon for future, and I was like, I don't like that when I saw the meaning of it. So I shuffled the cards and then did the spread again. I get moon again in the future. And I was like, no way. So I did it another time, and again a third time I got moon in the future space. So I realized that the cards, maybe this was fate. I had to face the fact that the moon, which talks about intuition, was going to be in my future. And I wasn't really too happy about that at the time, given my limited knowledge about tarot. And then I kind of got more relaxed about tarot, and I started to do daily oracle readings on Instagram. And it was a way for me to just get my feet on Instagram, because I have a lot of people who follow me just for my feet, which is quite interesting. And so I was really enjoying that for a while. And then I was in Sweden, and I went to a spiritual shop, and that's where I got the Thoth deck, which is by Aleister Crowley. And that's, Aleister Crowley is very prominent in the world of sex magic as well. He doesn't have the best reputation. He's got a bit of a very dark side. But nonetheless, I was interested in his deck of tarot cards. It's a very beautiful deck. And I got that deck, and it has the 78 cards. So that's how I started to do daily oracle readings. And also I started to learn a bit more of the other cards that were in the tarot deck. So just by doing a one card reading every day, I get to learn the cards one by one, which will lead me into more complex spreads, three card spreads, and also something called the Celtic Cross, which is 10 cards. And there are cards in different positions which mean different things, such as the situation, the challenge, the recent past, and there's a few different nuances or differences between how people interpret the cards or the positions. But in general, it's kind of a fun reading to do, and I've been giving those readings to other people as well. What I love about giving readings to other people is that I focus on just reading the cards. I'm not reading the person, so I feel that I don't have any responsibility, because I know that people that have read my cards, they've been more psychic, so they're also reading me to some degree, whereas I don't really want to have that responsibility. I just want to look at the cards. And it's interesting because when you just read the cards, I don't know anything about the person, and their meaning is unique to them. So I think that's kind of interesting. I think the cards can, it can help you to answer questions, but the answers are always within. I think it's just an extension of what you already know, that kind of thing, if that makes sense. So now I'm getting more and more advanced with my card readings, and I decided to get this deck, the Rider-Waite deck, which I'm working with now, which I think is the most popular deck in the world. And what I like about it is that you don't really have to look up every single card. Well, you can, but what's more interesting to me is just looking at the picture and what that can mean. Is it someone who's happy? Is it someone struggling? Is it someone who is overcoming obstacles? Really looking at the picture can say a lot, because I know that when there are all these different decks around, sometimes the original meaning of what the picture was depicting has been lost just due to people being creative, whereas I like to just look at the picture and see what is happening here. That can be just as meaningful as actually referring to a reference book. So I'm finding tarot helps me a lot to, answer my doubts in life. And what's really interesting is when there are recurring cards, because after today, when we got off the interview with Santos, I asked him for a reading, a bit more of and I asked a specific question, and I wasn't entirely happy with the answer. I was okay with it. I was like, oh no, oh well. So I thought, I'm going to do my own spread, and I did the same spread, and I got the same cards, and I was like, okay. So it was a very, very interesting outcome. Yeah, so anyway, let's get into the interview with Santos. We're going to hear his incredible story, and then he's going to be giving me a reading, which is, I can't wait to hear back now and see if everything has happened or not. Dear listener, due to popular demand, I am so thrilled to be offering 60-minute Zoom sessions just for you. Imagine an hour talking to me, oh my God, about all of the topics that I am a specialist in. I can help you with sexual wellness consulting. That could involve your sexual wellness business or even your personal life if you need some sex coaching to spice up your life with your partner, or even your solo sex life. I can definitely help you with that. I'm also offering self-love mentoring, and I'll be testing out my materials for my forthcoming self-love retreat, and these sessions are getting some excellent feedback. I'm also offering orgasmic manifestation, the sex magic guidance, which is the topic of my book, and it's something that I am also very passionate about. I'm having excellent results with. And also life in Barcelona. If you want to visit Barcelona or live in Barcelona, I am your woman. I can provide you with lots of tips. And last but not least, if you need a personal shopper for your pleasure product purchases, PPPPP, I am your woman. So we can connect and I will show you the best products for your needs. So are you ready to take the next step? If so, secure your spot today by visiting my website, venusohara.org, or you can click on the link in the show notes below. Let's make this hour all about you and your orgasmic journey. Santos, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast, where every day is a climax. This is the climax of my day speaking to you. It's a real pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Absolutely. And first of all, Venus, it's an honor to be on your podcast. Thank you for having me. So, my name is Santos. I have a business called Santos and the Crystal Visions. I'm actually currently in the process of getting my organization turned into a faith-based organization. And the reason for that is I work as an ayahuasca shaman. I serve plant medicine and I do trip sitting, psychedelic trauma healing, trauma informed work. And the only way to legally do that sort of thing here in the United States is to have a faith-based organization. So on top of that, I'm also a professional astrologer, spiritual life coach. I'm a Reiki master. I'm a certified breathwork instructor, and I do sound healing as well. So I'm your one-stop shop for all of your healing needs.
They're very holistic, like you're the whole lot. Um,
That's right. That's right. You know the magician card in the tarot? That's me.
oh, amazing. I love it. It looks like you're the bit of the cloaks. I've been looking at your Instagram just to
Oh
prepare for
yeah.
this, and you
I've got a
have
cloak right here. I mean,
it.
I'm just not wearing it for the recording.
Love it, love it. And I was just before we got on the line, we were talking about your name, Santos. That's just
Yeah.
such a it's una casualidad, as they say in Spanish. It's a coincidence.
See, see.
Yeah.
For me, Santos, it means saints or holy.
Mhm.
And as I'm doing my own unique blend of combining astrology with ayahuasca shamanism, I call it the medicine of the cosmos. So it's using the astrological birth chart to diagnose clients in order to prepare them for plant medicine journeys, or if people can't do plant medicine because they suffer with addiction or mental health issues, to prepare them for breathwork sessions to go deeper into the soul and the psyche to help heal the trauma.
Amazing.
So to me, the real saints are the signs of the zodiac.
Okay, interesting. I just saw something on about Gemini. I'll ask you in a minute. You see me writing down, it's because these ideas have popped into my head.
Yes, yes.
The next question.
Gemini is my past life sign, so I know a
Oh,
lot about that one.
amazing. So what inspired you to follow this path?
It's really interesting. Both my parents are medical doctors.
Oh, wow.
So I just always was a kid who kind of struggled in school to a certain point, and I didn't kind of catch on to things the same way that other people did. So I remember my mom casually mentioned when I was 11, "Oh yeah, you and grandma are both Aquariuses," because my grandma and I have the same birthday. And I looked into my astrology, and she was wrong. I'm a Pisces.
Okay.
But ever since that moment happened, I started researching the zodiac. I was only 11 years old. I'm 31 now, so I've been studying astrology for 20 years. And it's been like a lifetime pursuit.
So what was it like making this your profession? How was that journey?
Sure. So, I went to film school at the University of Southern California. I studied, critical theory and media. And after I graduated college, I drove Uber for 9 months, and then I got hired on my first job as an executive assistant at a documentary film production company.
Sounds amazing.
So it was, it was good, but I'm a Pisces. I don't have the administrative prowess that maybe some of the other signs like a Virgo or a Gemini might.
Mhm.
And with that in mind, the woman who worked in the finance department, she came to me and she's like, I just did ayahuasca this weekend. And I was like, what? Are you kidding? I've been wanting to do that for like 10 years now. I'd love to get the contact. So I ended up doing ayahuasca because I met that woman at that job. And then I was only at that job for about 8 months before I was fired.
Mm.
And, that was very tumultuous. And then I found another job and I was working as an executive assistant to a music contractor's office. And then I only did that job for about 5 months and I was fired from that job. And you have to understand, like, I'm not a horrible worker. Maybe I don't have the best administrative prowess, but the entertainment field is so cutthroat. So after that experience, I ended up working as the producer's assistant to I'm not sure if you're familiar with the actor Darren Criss, but he was on a television show called Glee here in the United States.
The Glee
And
rings a bell. Mhm.
yeah, so I worked as Darren's personal assistant. And then during the pandemic, and I did a great job for him and I did a great job working on set. But during the pandemic happened and I needed to start like making more money because less was coming down the pipeline. So I started Santos and the Crystal Visions, and ever since then I've been flourishing. I mean, I love my life, and I'm a trauma healer and astrologer full time.
Amazing. So one question I had about this, because I also do tarot. Every morning I do the
Fabulous.
card of the day. That's kind of how I'm
Yes.
learning, and I'm learning to do the Celtic cross. So
Oh, love
how
that
much?
spread.
Yeah, I'm doing that quite a lot. How much do you think you need? Is it just, for example, for me, I just read the cards, and I like, for example, the Rider Waite because I'm just looking at the picture. What's the picture?
Yes. That's the deck
Um,
that I have right on my desk right now.
Amazing. But then there are other people who are more intuitive and they can, well, how is your process? And can you describe the difference? How that would work?
Yeah, so my background in tarot is that I started studying it when I was 18, and I just was voraciously reading
Mm,
everything I could about every card. I've learned like every astrological association to every card and watching videos and getting information about it. So my journey with tarot started in more of a Gemini fashion, like being a student.
mm,
And then as I've aged, I kind of started combining my own personal philosophies and ideas and also just intuition, because you can pull a card and it can mean a thousand different things, but you're connecting that card to the person that you're reading. So there is a
mm,
level of like spirituality and something that's just beyond the card and the moment. It's more of a bigger picture of intuition and kind of accessing that psychic part of yourself. Because the cards are just giving you information that already exists.
mm. Because I kind of like it as I'm not having that responsibility because I'm just reading a card. If it's with someone else and say, does that mean anything to you? So I don't try to enter into reading the person. So I
Ah,
kind of like that kind of separation. But I know other
yeah.
people have the different type of gift with it.
Well, when I read for myself, it can be a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
difficult. And they say every psychic needs a psychic or every reader needs a reader.
Okay.
But when you're reading for yourself, the ego can get in the way really easily.
Hmm.
Like I had it recently where I was trying to decide, do I want to go into this upcoming leather competition or not? And I
Oh,
kept pulling the devil card, the
okay.
devil, the devil, the devil. And I was like, what could this mean? And as I'm getting more and more into my work of becoming an ayahuasca shaman, my spirit guides are telling me like, hey, we need you to move a little bit away from the leather stuff for now and
Mm,
like focus more on doing your ayahuasca church and like so I didn't get that message until I did an ayahuasca ceremony and a spirit literally came to me and were like, we're trying to get your attention and you're not seeing it. So just because you're great at reading for other people doesn't necessarily mean you're the best reader for yourself.
mm. So I did when I do my reading for myself, the one card. If I don't like it, what's your advice? Do you think you should just like do another card? Because I tried to
Well,
say, I just started doing this thing like cancel, cancel, delete, and just taking another one.
I can identify with you, Venus, because that's what I was doing with the leather competition. I kept
Okay.
playing the devil and the hanged man.
Okay, that's a different
And I
perspective,
was
though,
like,
isn't it? Different perspective.
yeah. So
Yeah.
so what I was being asked to do is like recognize that this thing in front of me might not give me what I think it's going to give me,
Okay.
and to slow down and to reconsider.
Mm,
So that message kept coming through, and I did not
okay.
want to see it.
Mm,
I was like so attached to doing the leather competition because I love it. I love leather. I love pink. I love all of this kind of stuff. And
mm,
the tarot, it's going to tell you the truth.
mm.
Whether you want to see it or not, it's like you can go to somebody who has the answer, but are we willing to receive the answer? That's the more challenging thing. And you got a Scorpio moon in your chart too, so you're like willing to keep digging deeper.
Yeah.
Like, but is that really the answer?
Yeah, because I think sometimes if I wake up feeling optimistic and I get a bad card, I mean, when you talk about the devil can also mean like ambition and other things that are
Yes.
not necessarily
Capricorn.
bad.
Yes.
So, uh,
So, it's just because it was paired with that hanged man, it was like pause, reflect, reconsider.
mhm. So how was your so when did you start with one modality and started building on them when you started working on this professionally? How was your journey?
That's a good question. The way that I started reading for other people more frequently was to this day, I still do this, but I was doing a one card draw on Facebook,
Mm,
and people could send me a donation if they wanted to get to the top of the
okay.
list. But then that evolved into me doing like now I do it on Instagram, so it's more public. But once I started seeing more clients, like you can pull the readings stack on top of each other.
Hmm.
So I love to base every time I see a client for the first time, I always start with their astrological birth chart.
Hmm.
And like I said, that's a diagnostic tool that tells me exactly what this person is working on, what they're doing, what their soul destiny is, what their karma is. It's all right there. And the more you read, the more you can start pulling in other elements and other philosophies in. So, like, my knowledge of the tarot only informs the astrology reading and vice versa. The more that you study, you can blend your own philosophies together to make a new product.
Hmm. Interesting, interesting. So about the ayahuasca, that's a very kind of fashionable thing to do. Uh, but for me, I feel quite scared of it, really. I
Yeah,
guess not. It's not for everyone. But I think some people don't. I don't think there's enough or not enough awareness about dangers of it online. 'Cause you have to kind of. What would you say for someone who is curious about ayahuasca? What advice would you give?
sure. So, well, I want to speak really quickly on why you might be afraid of it, but why it might also be good for you.
Mm,
So, you're a Gemini, you also have a Venus in Gemini, so there's a bit of a fear. You know, fear is a Gemini shadow, but the high vibration of Gemini is respect and honor.
mm,
So, fear can be a common thing for Gemini just because if they don't know about something, they might have a tendency to like shy away from it. But then you have a Uranus, ascendant, and moon all in Scorpio. And ayahuasca is a Scorpio. It's the frequency of the darkness, the underworld, the shadow, and transformation. So, for some reason, you might actually really enjoy working with ayahuasca because you have that Scorpio moon, especially.
mm. But
Now, oh, go ahead.
sorry, yeah, I'm continue. Yeah.
For somebody who might be interested in doing ayahuasca, uh, the first and most important thing is make sure you're not just doing it with some random person who's claiming to be a shaman who doesn't have any specific training or doesn't come from a lineage. You
Hmm.
know, when we're working with psychedelics and things that alter the mind, it's super important that there's someone credible who knows what they're doing, who's not putting you in danger in any capacity. And some things that are really important is like medically, you need to be safe in order to do ayahuasca, or else you could have heart palpitations, sweating, vomiting. Vomiting is a normal part of it, but at its worst, ayahuasca can cause serotonin syndrome and actually cause death.
Hmm.
So there's a specific diet you need to go on for, I'd recommend at least 2 to 4 weeks beforehand. You have to wean off of all medications that are contraindicated or can cause a negative effect with ayahuasca. There's the diet's not just for safety reasons, but it's also absorption. Like if you don't eat the right way, you won't have a trip at all.
Okay.
So
Oh, wow.
so it's on multiple levels because there's also some foods that can activate serotonin syndrome, like fermented foods, overly ripe vegetables. Those are things that can have like a negative effect. There's a whole list. And then the other thing is if you're eating pork or red meat, your body just won't have the trip because there's too much of a level of fat and like flesh in your system.
Wow. I'm totally vegan, so I
Oh,
guess
okay.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you'll be easy.
Already.
But
Yeah.
we'd have to have you avoid soy because that's one of the
Okay.
ingredients that's like there's still things that,
Mm.
it's important for everybody to get screened beforehand.
Yeah, because I think there's a lot of people who I think as well. I mean, living in Barcelona, so there's a big wellness community. But one thing that puts me off because I'm afraid of losing control. Maybe that's part of my birth chart. I've never taken
That could
anything
be
that
the
could
Virgo,
yeah, but I've never taken
Virgo
anything that could
midheaven.
be potentially losing control. I don't drink alcohol. I'm kind of very in control in control as much as I can be, but
Yeah, yeah.
with surrender. But I think also what has put me off it is that I see a lot of people who have said, "Oh yeah, it was amazing," and they keep on doing it, and they talk about this transformation, but the transformation doesn't isn't visible. And I think there is a danger of using these things recreationally, and I see a lot of that. The people who
Yeah.
are using it for the recreational purposes. What would you say to that?
Yeah, you and I are very much of the same belief. Like ayahuasca is not a toy. It's not something
Mm,
that you just do because no, we're gonna do ayahuasca because it's gonna be fun.
mm,
For me, it's more about like healing something. I mean, I've done
okay.
72 ceremonies at this point.
Wow.
So that maybe
What,
that could sound
received
excessive.
or being the shaman for?
I've received
Oh wow.
72 ayahuasca doses, but when you're the shaman, you're also drinking it.
Okay.
So it's not
Mm,
just trip sitting, it's trip partaking and guiding other
uh,
people. Because when you're in that psychedelic state, you can see other people's energy and how they need to be healed and guided as well.
Mm-hmm.
So a major part of the work is making sure that you're a clean vessel yourself so that you can caretake for other people. And when you're under this kind of psychedelic influence, it will help you. The ayahuasca will show you things that you need to do or to change in your life to improve your life.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, the physical benefits are incredible. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's helped me just transform my body. I used to be 269 pounds, and now I weigh about 215. I went from being super overweight and inactive. Now I weightlift 5 days a week. I watch my diet closely in a very healthy way, and I love my body,
Oh,
even if
cool.
it's not a perfect body. So that's a physical manifestation. Ayahuasca's helped me heal some really severe trauma, just from things from my past that have haunted me or experiences that I've gone through. It's helped me forgive certain people in some capacities. And more than anything, it's helped me to love myself more. So I think I'm kind of a good poster child for how you can gain mind, body, spirit kind of benefits from it.
Amazing. So I think it's the integration, which is a very important part of anything like
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, and with integration, it's recommended like you're not doing ayahuasca every weekend unless you're on a certain regimen where you're working closely with a shaman, maybe you're trying to heal a certain disease or some kind of, dysmorphia or negative thing internally, but
Mm.
integration is just as important as the ceremony.
Hmm. So for people who are not able or don't want to take that path, what would you recommend to them in your in the variety of services that you provide? We say breath work would be because it's another that can get you into alternates
Yes.
as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
and a major part of my ayahuasca shamanism and lineage training is doing exorcism work
Oh
and
wow,
removing
tell us
input.
that's wow.
Yes. I mean, I already had some training on that before going to the tribe and living with them, but they just took what I already knew and like, bam, like now I'm like, pro at it. So,
So tell us about that. How do you know when to do this? Would that be something having entities in you or?
well, that's the belief is that we as human beings, we're balls of light and balls of energy. So sometimes, we can pick up what quote unquote demons or entities or energies, and whether that's like a codependency thing or literally I've seen this in ceremony, guiding ceremonies, people who have sex demons.
Uh,
I've had it before where somebody got completely nude and started shouting profanities in the ceremony. So
wow.
so it's just once I know that that didn't come from that person. That's not them.
Okay.
So there's a way to go in to that person and like literally it took 2 nights, but we chanted the demon out of him, cleaned him up, blessed him, like removed the energy. But I just had a guy here yesterday, making he's working on a project and he wanted to film something and he brought his crew over and they filmed me like getting him ready for his own healing journey. So I had him do the breath work and
Uh,
performed an exorcism on him and like everything was incredible. It went super well. So you can access somebody's quote unquote demons or low vibrations through ayahuasca, through breath work, through yoga. I mean, there's a hundred ways, thousands of ways even.
and how do you know they're there? And how does it manifest? I mean, how does it?
Yeah, well, the best way to know how like a quote unquote demon or low vibrational energy can manifest is everybody's got something that they're working with.
Mhm.
As a shaman, I like the word demon because it
Mhm.
sounds like The Exorcist and it's a
Mhm.
little more dramatic. But demon is just a way of saying your life lessons, the things that you're trying to overcome. And as
Okay.
part of my faith-based organization, what I teach people is your demons are your greatest teachers. The things that haunt you or the lessons that you're repeating again and again are the things that are like going to help you self-actualize. So learning how to conquer your demons is part of your life lesson. My work is to help get the quote unquote demons or the life lessons out of somebody and then to train them to keep them off. So that if you
Okay.
had, in my own experience, if I had an affair with a married man for 5 years, that once I stopped having sex with that married man, then I stopped going back to him.
Okay. So
Like
stopping these
that's an
patterns.
example.
So
Stopping your patterns.
okay.
The guy with the sex demons, like he was having sex with people that were carrying negative energy themselves, and that
Mm.
informs somebody, that shifts an individual's energy.
Wow. So how do you stay protected with
That's a
all?
good question. I have to do daily breathwork techniques. I'm constantly blessing and singing. I'm learning medicine songs out of the book that I got when I did my training in
Mm.
Peru. It's constant work. I also work out 5 days a week. I keep a healthy diet. It's knowing like where I end and where other people begin. That's
Okay.
a major part of this work.
So the crystal visions, are you into crystals?
I do love crystals. I have a big box of them underneath my bed right now. I just moved into
Mm.
this apartment full time, so my
Uh,
sister and I were kind of sharing it, but I finally
uh,
moved all my stuff in, or else I'd like point to my bookshelf and be like, "Look at all my crystals."
cool. It's like a full moon tonight. Well, tomorrow tonight. So
Yes,
time to plan
yes.
them out. Do you have a favorite crystal or a crystal you work with?
My favorite crystal is malachite.
Oh, wow. How come?
So, are you familiar with malachite?
Yeah, the travel.
So,
It's a travel one.
well, it's a green crystal. It's got
Uh,
multiple shades of green in it. Travel is one
uh,
of the implications. It's also great for wealth and abundance, but malachite is a Scorpio energy.
ah,
So it helps you get to the shadows and the darkness. And I have this very beautiful malachite bowl on my bookshelf right now, actually. And I just use it as like a little place to kind of keep, if I have an intention for something, I'll put it in the little malachite bowl.
oh, nice,
So
nice.
I work with that one very regularly.
Do you do any moon rituals?
Sometimes I remember one time my sister and I took an owl to the ocean. It was an owl that like had passed. We took it to the ocean and we released it to the ocean underneath the full moon, and said some intentions. My intentions. It's funny because when the full moon rolls around, I kind of maintain my intentions throughout the entire month. So
Mhm.
when the full moon gets here, it's like, all right, we've got the power of the full moon with us today. So my ritual that I set up yesterday was I took 3 cards from the Angel Tarot. And so I have an angel deck here. And I have elected 3 angels to assist me with a very personal process that I'm going through right now. So I've been praying to those angels. I've been asking for their assistance and manifesting something. So, I'm always doing some kind of ritual. When the full moon comes, it's just adding it on top of it.
Are you interested in adding any more new modalities into your offering? Or are you learning about anything that you'd like to offer at some point?
Right now I'm getting really into what's known as the Seals of Solomon.
What
So, are you familiar with
No,
the
no.
seals of Solomon? So, the Solomonic seals are the seals that were supposedly created by King Solomon, and they go through the planets. So, the sun all the way down in astrology, we call the sun a planet, all the way down to the planet Saturn, because Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto hadn't been discovered yet. But the Solomonic seals, they go with the planets, and they each have a divine purpose or a reason that you're going to use them. So that's something that I'm like educating myself about, learning about right now.
Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to do a reading in a few minutes, but I'm going to ask you a couple of questions I usually ask at the end of an interview.
Please.
I ask everyone this question. I don't have a TV, I have books. So, what is the book that changed your life?
Oh, that is such a good question. The book that changed my life. There's a book called The Demonologist.
Wow, that sounds interesting.
So it's the story of the exorcist Ed and his wife Lorraine, Ed and Lorraine Warren. It's
Mhm.
the story of them and their cases that they started studying, and like, the movie Annabelle with the possessed doll comes out of that book.
Oh, wow.
So I really got into exorcism and all of that stuff. I saw The Exorcist when I was 8 years old, and I started studying that book, The Demonologist, when I had entered college. And it just took me by storm. I was so terrified out of my mind while reading that book, especially because weird things would start happening around me when I would read it because I was afraid.
Wow. Do you think you're
And
attracting those things?
I think so. Like just like the power went out of my house one day while I was reading it, or I remember like a glass fell over and broke and I was like nowhere near it. Like some weird stuff. But I think I was like because of my fear. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, demons can't touch me. Like
Yeah,
they're not, you
you're
know.
Malachite.
Yes, yes, the Malachite.
Cool. Another question I ask
Exactly.
everyone is what is the quote or affirmation that you live by?
Oh, I don't know if this is a quote that I live by, but it's one that you asked me this question and I have it right on tap.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorites. It's by a writer named Anatole France.
Hmm.
And the quote is, all changes, even the most longed for, have their melancholy. For
Oh,
what we lose is a part of ourselves. We must die to one life before we enter the next. And so to me, this quote just symbolizes like anytime you're going through any kind of change in life, there's a mourning process and you can't
mm.
move on until you process the sadness.
Oh, that's really empowering. Yeah.
Yeah,
And before we get to the reading, I want to ask you one more question as well, which is really about all these things. I think, what do you say to people who think that all of these modalities are, let's say, anti or they go against religion or that they are sinful? Because that's something
interesting.
that you see. Because I mean, I was brought up very Catholic, and
So was I.
I'm really into all this stuff. And I think, did you know Jordan Flesher? I saw something on his Instagram this week about tarot and divination, like being part of the Bible or something. I thought that's so interesting. So, because people think it's, the word divination, divino, the divine.
Yeah, yeah,
What would you say to people who think all of these things are bad?
right. Well, I want to address also people who are skeptics.
Uh-huh.
So people who just don't believe in it in general. What I want to say is you don't have to believe in electricity for it to work or for it to
Okay.
be true. As for people who believe that it's bad, I think that's just I grew up Catholic, so did you. So you like there's a lot of wisdom and a lot of magic and power in that religion. But as I think about the world at large, like all of these sources go directly to God if you use them with the right intention. So whether it's Buddhism, Sikhism, Islam, Judaism, all religions, so long as they're with good intention and moving towards the ultimate religion, which is just love,
Mm.
um, as long as they're being used the right way, then I think it's okay. And furthermore, to only see your way of doing things as the right way, in my opinion, is the wrong way.
Yeah, for sure.
And
Mm.
we think about the virtues of respect and coexistence. These things, like it should be like we can agree to disagree, and I also respect the way that you do things. Anybody who has an issue on it, like they're creating that issue internally. That's them either being codependent on other people's beliefs or whatever, but it's really a personal problem. I don't think that it doesn't phase me whatsoever if somebody doesn't support or believe what I do.
Amazing. So let's go into the reading. I've been looking forward to
Please.
this.
Yes. So
Woo!
I believe we've got about 15 minutes here.
Yeah.
So did you want to start with tarot or do you want me to go into your birth chart?
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think
Well,
you said birth chart before? So that's how you start normally.
yeah. I
Mm.
love the astrological birth chart. And the thing that I focus on primarily with my clients, I'll explain the whole birth chart if somebody books a session with me, but there's something known as the North Node. Are you
Mhm.
familiar with this?
I've seen it on the CoStar app. I don't really know what it means,
All
but
right, well, let me educate
okay.
you. So
Uh,
the North Node is what they call the dragon's head. So
okay.
it's the part of the birth chart where you need to take something in. You have to go and ingest something, learn something, develop a new skill, to become something. Now, once you get good at doing it for yourself, then the goal becomes to do it for other people. And then the A plus version of your life is to do it for the world. And
Uh,
knowing that you, others, yourself, others, and the world, if you can do all three, you're going to get an A plus, at least in my grading system.
okay.
So your North Node, the skill that you need to learn to develop in this lifetime is in Libra, and
Mm.
it's in the 11th house, behaving like Aquarius. So when the North Node is in Libra, that means that you're here to develop becoming more relationship oriented. Because it's Libra, we always see what's Venus doing in an individual's chart. You have a Venus in Gemini. So Libra, North Node, means that we want to help heal or correct any of the debilitations of a Venus in Gemini. So Venus in Gemini, that's the push-pull dynamic that an individual can feel in love.
Ah,
So it's needing to develop really good boundaries, developing the virtues of respect and honor in relationships, and moving away from the shadow of fear or punishment, whether that's you being afraid or the fear, pursuing other people that are afraid of love, or for you to punish yourself or to be punished by other people when it comes to love. So
We're talking romantic love with this.
typically because it's Venus, but also just your social nature, like in terms
Mm-hmm.
of friendships and people that you keep close to yourself, like it's to develop relationships where things don't get quite so erratic, unpredictable, unstable, extreme, and instead we're moving towards just pure love, the energy of being able to balance yourself with others.
Do you think that's related to my job? Because my job is actually sexuality for the last 15 years. So that is the most relational thing you can do. Have sex. So,
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then the North Node is also in the 11th house, behaving like Aquarius. So doing it for the world,
uh-huh.
helping other people, not just balancing love and romance and sex for yourself, but doing it for others as well.
Hmm.
And Venus is conjunct Lilith in your birth chart. So Lilith is our divine feminine rebellion. It's our sexuality. It's how we want to go against the patriarchy and devour our own desire.
Uh-huh.
So to move towards sex, kink, pleasure, sexuality, and like getting your needs met is also part of your destiny. And because the South Node is in Aries in the fifth house, you might have a tendency to be really loyal to people that are a bit selfish.
Okay.
That's like your
Sounds
comfort zone.
familiar. Yeah, I'm trying to work on that right now, actually. Yeah.
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 So the destiny is actually to dissolve your ego, like an
Uh,
Aquarius, to get over being attached to the things that aren't fulfilling you, no matter how attached or in love you are. And instead moving towards the concept of like freedom, that's Aquarius's virtue, to be free or enlightened, and then to be balanced and to do justice by your relationships so that you are interdependent to give and to receive love in full balance. That's your destiny in this lifetime. That's the thing you wanted to develop more of in this lifetime.
Definitely. Because I think the first few years of my job, I felt like I was sacrificing my own personal life to serve others because I've already been focused on the education of female orgasm. That's been my main focus. And then because I also thought, I'm a sex toy designer and reviewer. I have a room with 900 toys, and a lot of guys can be really like, oh, put off by that and intimidated. So I just thought that maybe that my life has to come second, and now I don't think that now anymore. I think it has to come first, so, literally, so I can actually serve more because I'm really inspired by love and functional relationships, and I want that to really influence my content in a way that fills my cup, so I can give more. Yeah.
Yeah, that's making perfect sense. And North Node in Libra, like you're here to help other people win their battles, but
Hmm.
it's also about letting other people help you win yours.
Hmm.
Interdependence is one of the exalted virtues of Libra.
Okay.
So to be able to equally give and receive love, and because you've got a Venus in Gemini, that typically translates, Gemini is going to show us more of an extreme way of doing things. So you're
Mm.
probably really good at doing things for other people.
Okay.
Or the other side of that, maybe you're better at doing things just for yourself.
Okay.
Like if you're going to do an orgasm, like
Mm.
you can get yourself off better than somebody else can. Or the idea of like if you're going to, pleasure somebody else, you can like do them all day, but maybe not receive it from them. So that's something to be corrected in this lifetime. The interdependence of an orgasm could be a literal manifestation of your destiny.
Wow. Anything else juicy in the chart?
Sure. Some other things that we've got in your birth chart. I mean, we've got Scorpio rising, Scorpio moon. So Scorpio is the sign of shedding the trauma of your ancestors.
Mm.
It is the sign of sex. So when you walk into the room, it's like, hello, sexuality. But Scorpio is the sign of knowing how to transform your circumstances. So oftentimes Scorpios will be born into maybe chaotic family dynamics or where there's less control. And their lesson in life is to learn to like remove the darkness and to actually distill and get a sense of purity for themselves by transforming their lives.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. So
Definitely.
you're Scorpio rising with the moon right on the ascendant. So you know what it means to like shed the trauma of those who came before you. I've heard it said before that it's like being born into a mess and then you clean it up. You saw in your lineage or your bloodline, oh, here's here's a dynamic that needs to stop. I don't want to see this continue anymore. I'll go down, I'll incarnate to help end the trauma cycles that are going on.
Yeah, I think I've definitely done that because I've got brought up Catholic. So I didn't choose this path. It chose me because it's
Yeah.
a massive personal risk to do what I do. And I got to a point where life was so bad that this was the best option for me. So, because
Yeah.
I was burnt out from working for other people. And then I thought, I'm going to be a sex blogger. And then as soon as I made that decision, I got book deals and like media deals and everything kind of took off.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
Well,
mm,
you've got this asteroid known as Chiron in Taurus. So
yeah.
Chiron is our greatest pain, which leads to our most profound healing.
Wow.
Taurus has to do with tradition.
Hmm.
Also, the senses, taste, touch, smell, hear, feel, see. So there's like a wounded, especially earlier in life, a wounded sense of comfort. Like the idea of allowing to experience pleasure is like very uncomfortable. And like growing up Catholic myself and the shame I felt for being gay,
Mm,
I'm sure you can identify on some level. And you've got Mercury, the planet of the mind, the nervous system, and OCD tendencies on top of this Chiron.
yeah.
So like having the scrupulous religious guilt, like everything you did being backed up by like, oh my God, I'm not following the tradition, I'm not following, I'm going to burn in hell, I'm going to have this, I'm going to, that being something that's really loud in your birth chart.
Wow.
So allowing yourself to experience pleasure is literally what heals your religious scrupulosity.
Yeah, definitely. So what about the tarot then?
Let's jump over.
Let's focus on
So,
love.
okay, let's take a
Yeah.
look on love. What does Venus need to know about her love life? Oh, we have a card here that literally, oh, two cards that literally flipped up as I was shuffling.
So just a bit of protocols here. So when cards jump out, is it just do you say that as a sign? Is that
I'd say
yeah.
that's like the universe is like, hey, here's the card that you need to look at right now.
Okay.
So the first card that we have is the Queen of Wands.
Uh-huh.
So when we talk about the wands in the tarot, they represent passion, sexuality.
Hmm.
It's the element of fire. It's where we see our natural gifts, talents, and abilities. And queens in the tarot represent the cardinal signs of the zodiac. So cardinal fire would be Aries. And in your birth chart, Aries is your past life sign.
Hmm.
So this is talking about the concept of shame,
Hmm.
the virtue of courage, and the enlightened virtue of self-actualization. So to pull this card when we're talking about love is in order to attract proper love to yourself, you have to come in as a whole person. You've
Hmm.
got to be coming in like with your stuff on lock, where you have your boundaries down, you know what you're looking for. There's a very easy and flowing understanding about who you are and how you want to take action, like the Queen of Wands, what direction you want to go in. You're coming in with an intention. So
Okay.
to get a little bit more clear, but then meet people halfway because the North Node is still Libra. So the card that we have following it is the Ten of Cups,
Love
ruled by
it.
the astrological placement of Jupiter, the planet of luck and fortune, in
Hmm.
Pisces, Jupiter's home sign.
Hmm.
So we're talking expansion, positivity, abundance, emotional fruitfulness, joy, happiness. There's a concept here that, hey, a relationship could be not too far off.
Wow.
Are you dating right now? I mean,
No. Mm.
okay, so the energy of this is like opening yourself up to that more interdependent, loving, harmonious energy. And we also have the Six of Cups. This is the card of the soulmate in some capacity, or the inner child, or having children in general. But according to this, there should be somebody who's coming and wanting to adorn you with flowers. There's an energy of like that interdependence, that warmth, that positivity, so long as you are open to it and direct about what you want. Now, given that we just finished an ecliptic cycle between Libra and Aries, these are your destiny signs. And the North Node is in Aries right now, which is your past life sign, and the South Node is in Libra, which is your destiny. So you're in a moment right now where you might be pretty ripe for someone to come in.
Wow. That's interesting.
So yeah,
Because this morning, actually, I did some really focused journaling about love, and I got to see like had some really powerful downloads. Because I've done journaling quite a lot in my life for manifestation, journaling about the ideal. And the first time I ever did it was on a kind of new moon virtual thing. And I wrote down everything I wanted in a relationship and I kind of got it. It's like, oh my God. And I look back, I was shocked at everything that I wrote down. But what I did learn from that is that there were some things that were issues that I hadn't specified. So I think you've got to be very like in these journaling, really know what you want and not miss
yeah.
out on important things like communication or whatever. Hmm.
Well, and because you've got a Venus in Gemini, you
Hmm.
have to, like, that Venus is taking orders from the North Node.
Uh-huh.
Like, if you're going to have an interdependent and balanced relationship, it's going to need to be through Venus's ruler, Gemini, respect and honor.
Mm,
You need somebody who really respects your boundaries.
mm.
And if you don't want to do something, they hear you. Or if you have prerequisites that you're coming into the relationship with, they're respecting that about you.
So where can I find this person then? Do you do clarifying cards ever or
Let's see. Yeah, let's pull. Where will Venus find this person? I mean, we've got the Knight of Swords, so there's two ways of looking at this. The Knight of Swords is ruled by Gemini, so it's going to come through Gemini means. So Gemini places would be the local community, so the local watering hole, the local coffee shop, going grocery shopping, putting your pineapple right side up. I've heard about this whole thing in
Oh
Spain.
yeah, yeah, in Spain, in
Yeah,
Mercadona, yeah,
yeah, the pineapple, the metaphorical pineapple.
yeah.
But it's like through the local community, the local watering hole, or Gemini also rules social media. So it could be
Okay.
online dating, putting yourself out there, asking for exactly what you want, but still being approachable, these kinds of means. But it's now is a good time. You're actually in a good phase because the North Node is going to move into Pisces, and that rules your personal life placement in your birth chart. So this part of your life is preparing to get activated home when you're not at work.
Amazing. That's so hopeful.
Yeah, I feel very optimistic for you. I mean, just speaking with you, Venus, you are so lovely and so charming, and just there's a kindness and a warmth to you. I think you'll have no problem attracting somebody. It's just you have to make the choice that you're ready for them.
Yeah. Because
That's really all it is.
I was thinking that today, like about, sometimes you can be afraid of what you wish happening sometimes as well,
Yeah.
and not knowing. I think it's you have to be very clear at the beginning so that you don't get into these situations where in Spanish, there's this expression, el roce hace el cariño. When you
Mm,
spend time with people and you end up in love with them, and then you're like, oh, because I realized in my life with love in the past, I haven't been as intentional as I maybe should have been, because then you're already attached, and all these problems emerge that are not making you happy. And
yeah.
sometimes I've been too like focused on the love part and not like the cerebral, like what's happening here. Is
Yeah,
it?
the respect.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that's Gemini. Gemini's logical, cerebral, and
Mm,
because it does think things through, it does have a certain way that it likes to do things, and that's where the respect comes in.
yeah. Because I was talking to another friend who's into the divine feminine about love in relationships. I don't know if it's just related. Let's see what you think about this. Sometimes people have this, let's say, list or mold that they want someone to fit, and that can be more important than the person. But I think I've just like fallen in love with people and forgotten about my mold or list or requirements sometimes. Mm.
Yeah, and that's a very common thing for because Geminis are highly curious.
Mhm.
They're always willing to kind of explore an idea,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the idea of somebody, because novelty does fall under the sign Gemini, the
Mhm.
enjoyment of novelty, new experiences, getting variety. But that's not the ascended virtue. The
Okay.
ascended version of Gemini is more about respect.
Uh-huh.
And then let's put it this way, when somebody's born with like let's say somebody's North Node is Gemini, that
Mm.
means that they actually just need to figure out what they like in this lifetime. That's part of a North Node in Gemini, getting some experience doing things, trying new things. It can also be a lot about developing, becoming more literate or language oriented, but even more so, it's learning how to define things black or white
Mhm.
and saying, this is what I want, asking for what you want, and then getting what you want. That's a Gemini thing as well.
Amazing. Amazing. I love that. So where can people find you? Do you do these kind of
Sure,
readings online? Do you give
I
these readings?
do.
Yeah.
I do. So I do astrological birth chart readings, tarot readings. You can book both of those in a 90-minute session, or individual in an hour session. But you can find me at www.santoscrystalvisions.com, or you can follow me on social media at Santos Crystal Visions. And again, my name is Santos. I run a business called Santos and the Crystal Visions. And be on the lookout for my ayahuasca church coming. I'm almost done filling out the paperwork with my lawyer. And I'm preparing to write a book about everything I know about astrology.
Amazing. I'd love to read your books. I read all of my guests' books when they have books.
Oh my God.
That's my USP because I have my whole shelf here with my podcast guest books. It's like the best part of my job, like reading a book and
Yeah.
speaking to the author. So when
Oh
you've
my
got that,
God.
I'd love to read it and then ask you.
Absolutely. And I just got to tell you, Venus, I totally adore your personality, your demeanor. It sits really well with me. I really respect you and appreciate you.
Okay, thank you so much. This has been so enlightening.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
The book I'm reading now is Things No One Taught Us About Love: How to Build Healthy Relationships with Yourself and Others by Vex King. This is the second Vex King book that I have read. Well, I'm about halfway through almost. And the first one was Good Vibes, Good Life, which I already reviewed on here. And I had said that that was very entry level self help, but always a good reminder for those of us who've been on this journey for a bit longer, because we can never know too much or could never hear those lessons. So sometimes it's not always easy to live by these things of self-love, etc. We all kind of fail with bad boundaries, and we're not as good as we should be. So it's always good to remind ourselves of the basic self-help lessons. But this book is very different. I think it's also entry level, but I'm finding it very useful. It's actually challenging my thoughts on love. It's making me see love with a whole new perspective. And it's a really good reminder of, how to love yourself and have good boundaries. And I think that's a big issue for many, many people these days. I think if you look at content online that dating and love coaches are putting out there, it's always about standing your ground to get the kind of relationship and treatment that you want. And it feels like a lot of people are not treating people the right way. And then the person who's not receiving the treatment they want, there are all these techniques to kind of manipulate the situation so you do get what you want, using strategies such as silence, etc. And working on yourself, but maybe with ulterior motives to make it look like you're more attractive or doing better than you think and you don't care. And a lot of kind of back and forth, ghosting, and a lot of inconsistency and a lack of clarity. And I see a lot of content like that online, and I think it's quite sad, really, that we can't just speak our minds, speak our hearts, and really be transparent with each other and what our intentions are. So this book is really about what I'm taking away from it right now is my understanding of what love is and what it means to actually love someone. And what I've really understood or seen with a new light is that this love is something that's within us, and it's always ours. And it's because the expression falling in love, it sounds very victim-like, you're losing control, etc. And love can feel like you're losing control sometimes, but we have to distinguish what is real love, what is attachment, and how much of the love you feel for someone else is in their best interest. Is it just to fulfill your own needs? Because sometimes I believe that love, like being in love with someone, is a purely internal experience, like a drug. Well, it is a drug that someone else is provoking in you. But then there's another type of love which is more outward and towards someone else who you want the best for that person, you care for them, you think about them, you consider them. and you want the best for them, even if that means they're not going to be with you. So I think it's nice to have a blend of both, like genuinely love someone, want the best for them, but also enjoy that kind of dopamine rush or whatever it is. I think it's kind of, or the butterflies in your stomach. Well, that can be a bit overrated, or it's put on a pedestal a lot. And if we watch many rom-com movies, it's always that type of love that people are chasing. And that might not be sustainable long term, but it is nice to feel that rush of suddenly all the songs sound nicer. You know, you're walking down the street and you get this smile on your face. You feel like you're in a bubble. You're replaying all these amazing things that you've experienced with that person. And I myself am guilty of being an extreme romantic, that I have put situations and people who have provoked that in me on pedestals. I've overvalued it, and then sometimes have put up with situations that might not have been, how would I say it, healthy to some degree, just because I wanted that high of that connection. So I think that's something that's taught to us through Hollywood movies, even romance novels. There's all this kind of like these expectations of wanting to be swept off your feet, and if you're not, it's not quite there. Yeah, it can be kind of disappointing. But at the end of the day, we have to kind of think of love as being something healthy. That took me a very long time to see it that way, because I've always equated love to be like a lack of control, when in fact a healthy relationship could be the most one of the most incredible things you can actually experience. But there's actually a couple of things I wanted to read from this book, because this continues what I was thinking about, all this content we see online about how to manipulate situations and people to get what you want in the world of dating and love. Anyway, there's a chapter called Psychological Games Get You Played. When it's right, you'll both just know. No games, no guessing, no convincing. If you have to prove your worth, they aren't for you. Don't chase those who leave you feeling uncertain. Wait for the one who chooses you clearly and without hesitation. For many, dating resembles a strategic game more than a search for connection. We craft clever profiles to showcase best selves, then swipe prospects like human Candy Crush. Yeah, so it says if someone shows interest in us, little power games start happening. One person might not text back for a few days, acting aloof to seem hard to get. The other might reply unpredictably to keep you hooked. I don't think these types of dynamics are always done in a way that's purely conscious. I think delaying replies isn't necessarily with the objective of getting someone hooked, but I think that's a kind of an effect that just happens that you might not have anticipated. But I think it's good to always remember that you are the number one love, and anything or anyone who comes into your life, they have to enhance how you're going to feel. And also, as I was going back to, I was saying, butterflies in your stomach, I think as we age, we want someone who's going to provide emotional stability to us and emotional safety, where we do feel that it's safe to be vulnerable, and that if you do share vulnerabilities, it's going to be held and received in the right way and not make you feel like you've got some massive energy hole. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes it can leave you feeling empty if you kind of are vulnerable with someone. It should be always with the objective of deeper connection and clarity. I think that's very, very important, to have clarity when you are in a relationship with someone, to know that you're both on the same pages with the same objectives. And sometimes we don't do that enough. I don't think we've been taught how to have these conversations about love and dating, and it is probably the most important thing of life. I know I'm very guilty of it. I'm one of the least confrontational people I know, and I do suffer from that. So I'm trying to learn and get better at these things. Another thing I wanted to read from this book is, maybe people aren't leaving you. Maybe the universe is leaving room in your life for people who appreciate and reciprocate the love you share. I think it's really important to keep your standards high when it comes to self-love, because that way you'll always do better when it comes to sharing love, because you'll always fill your cup first rather than thinking that someone has to fill your void. I think that's super, super, super important, and it's something that I am also learning. So yeah, I really, really highly recommend this book. I'm reading it every morning with my coffee, and I find it's given me a lot to reflect upon. It's a very cute little book as well. And that is the book I'm reading now, Things No One Taught Us About Love, How to Build Healthy Relationships with Yourself and Others by Vex King. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am changing for the better. I love the person I am becoming. I embrace change as an opportunity to grow and evolve. I release old patterns that no longer serve me. Every challenge I face helps me become stronger and wiser. I am committed to becoming the best version of myself. I am grateful for my positive transformation. I am changing for the better. I love the person I am becoming. I am resilient, adaptable, and capable of transforming my life. I am worthy of all the good things life has to offer. I believe in myself and my ability to achieve my dreams. I trust in my power to create positive change. I am grateful for my positive transformation. I am changing for the better. I love the person I am becoming. I release self-doubt and embrace my inner strength. I am enough, just as I am, and I am growing every day. I am attracting opportunities that align with my highest good. I deserve abundance, joy, and success in all areas of my life. I am grateful for my positive transformation. I am changing for the better. I love the person I am becoming. I am open to receiving the blessings the universe has for me. Transformation comes easily and naturally to me. I align with the energy of abundance and gratitude. I let go of fear and trust the process of transformation. I am grateful for my positive transformation. I'm changing for the better. I love the person I am becoming. I choose positivity and optimism in every moment. My mind is a powerful tool, and I use it to create the life I desire. I am letting go of limiting beliefs. I am in control of my thoughts, emotions, and actions. I am grateful for my positive transformation. Dear listener, due to popular demand, I am so thrilled to be offering 60-minute Zoom sessions just for you. Imagine an hour talking to me, oh my God, about all of the topics that I am a specialist in. I can help you with sexual wellness consulting. That could involve your sexual wellness business or even your personal life if you need some sex coaching to spice up your life with your partner or even your solo sex life. I can definitely help you with that. I'm also offering self-love mentoring, and I'll be testing out my materials for my forthcoming self-love retreat, and these sessions are getting some excellent feedback. I'm also offering orgasmic manifestation, the sex magic guidance, which is the topic of my book, and it's something that I am also very passionate about. I'm having excellent results with. And also life in Barcelona. If you want to visit Barcelona or live in Barcelona, I am your woman. I can provide you with lots of tips. And last but not least, if you need a personal shopper for your pleasure product purchases, PPPPP, I am your woman. So we can connect and I will show you the best products for your needs. So are you ready to take the next step? If so, secure your spot today by visiting my website, venusohara.org, or you can click on the link in the show notes below. Let's make this hour all about you and your orgasmic journey. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.